Really sandy soil here. Doesn't hold nutrients very well. Not a whole lot of life in it. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all you are having a fantastic day. It is Friday, May 24th here in South Georgia, and today we're going to plant these sweet potato plants in some sorry dirt behind me. Going to tell you why we're choosing to plant these in such poor soil, and we'll show you how we do it. But before we do that, a little update on these bunch Puerto Rico sweet potatoes that we planted in these raised beds a couple videos ago. These are looking a little pitiful, as sweet potato plants tend to do a few days after you plant them. I've been coming in here twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon, giving these a little splash, and they're picking up now. They're starting to stand back up and look a little better. Just got to baby these things the first few days after planting. And then back over here where we started, I'll give you a quick little update on these two plots on the back half of the property that we haven't been using as much. And so for this arch panel trellis, several weeks ago, we planted some of those King of Garden pole limas along this structure, and they just didn't germinate well at all for me. You can see we might have 4 or 5 plants along that stretch there. Not sure why they didn't germinate. I was late getting them planted anyways, so it's probably too late to try again this spring or early summer. We'll try again with those in the fall. And then for this big grassy area here behind me, barring anything unforeseen, a 30 by 40 greenhouse is going to be put here by the end of the summer. So I'll probably put a tarp over this area pretty soon. Go ahead and kill off that grass before the greenhouse install begins. And then on the other side of the chicken tractor here, we've got our turmeric bed, and as you can see, some of this turmeric has started to emerge from the ground. I was planning on putting down a thick layer of compost or mulch here before this turmeric emerged, but I kind of fiddle-farted around and didn't do it. And as you know, when you fiddle-fart around, you will eventually pay for it. So I've been in there hand pulling weeds, trying to get that cleaned up. I may still eventually add a thick layer of compost in there once I get it cleaned up a little more. And then behind all that, we've got this little spot here, which is typically the sorriest dirt on our entire property. Really sandy soil here. Doesn't hold nutrients very well. Not a whole lot of life in it. I'd kind of let this grow up a little bit because I didn't think I was going to use it anymore. Had a bunch of purslane and pigweed, a bunch of other stuff in there. I did till it a couple times, trying to get it cleaned up. Still not very clean, just kind of a work in progress. So as I mentioned, I was planning on just discontinuing this garden plot here because we don't use it a whole lot and the soil's so sandy and not that great. And we've got those 6 plots in the front of the property that are really good, that we put a lot of effort into. So that's why I just let this grow up. But then I got to thinking about the best sweet potato harvest I've ever had on this property. So way back when, about 10 years ago, when all that up front was covered in pine trees, all we had was this garden plot here and this sandy one behind me, and we grew some sweet potatoes kind of right in the area where this chicken tractor is sitting and where that turmeric is. And we harvested wheelbarrow loads and wheelbarrow loads from just a few rows. And so once I recalled that little useful nugget of history, I thought, well, instead of letting this behind me continue to grow up, we'll break that ground, that old sorry dirt there that probably has no nutrients in it whatsoever, and we'll plant our sweet potatoes there this year and see if we can duplicate what we did in one of our first years gardening on this property. Now this could work well, it could bite me in the butt, but my lack of consistency with sweet potatoes has me willing to take a chance. With something like regular taters, I'm pretty consistent year after year, and I know if we don't have a good harvest, kind of what led to that poor harvest. But with sweet potatoes, man, some years we'll have a really good year, some years we won't have a good year. I'm just not very consistent at all with them. So that's why I'm kind of going back to the basics, thinking what I did the first couple years here to get a really good harvest and trying to duplicate that. So this right here by no means is up to my standards as far as how clean I like a plot to be before I plant. It's kind of messy out here, but like I said, this is a work in progress. We'll get it cleaned up more as we go. I do have enough cultivated here for 2 nice rows of sweet tater plants, so that's what we're going to put in here. And I'm going to plant these on a hill or a mound, so that's step 1. Let's make our hills. So I'm going to start by taking the wheel hoe here and just kind of marking off where my rows are going to go, making me a small hill just so I can get started. And before we make that hill larger, I do want to add a little bit of fertility, not a whole lot. So I'm just going to do one of these scoops of coop grow per 30-foot row. And then I'm going to take my rake and mound these up a little more. We'll heal these plants as they grow. So I'm going to make it, you know, a foot, foot and a half tall now. Just a little taller than what the wheel hoe gives us. All right, so not massive mounds there, but good enough for right now. We'll add to them as the sweet potatoes grow. So these mounds are going to provide some nice soft soil that will help those sweet potatoes size up without looking really gnarly. It will also help us know where our rows are, where we need to dig when these things get ready to dig, because we'll have just vines covering this entire area, and without the mounds, sometimes hard to know where to start. And I've got these 2 rows spaced about 4 or 5 foot apart because I've only got enough plants for 2 rows anyways, but you can put sweet potato rows as close as 3 foot apart if you're limited on space. So the variety we're going to be planting today is my personal favorite sweet potato variety called Orleans, and we get these from Steel Plant Company at sweetpotatoplant.com. Now by the time this video airs, they may be done shipping for the year. I don't know, but you can go to their website and check. So I've tried a bunch of different sweet potato varieties over the years, and this one I like the best because it's the most consistent performer for me, despite my overall inconsistent sweet potato growing abilities. So Orleans was developed by LSU to be an improvement over the older Beauregard variety to give you more what they call #1 sweet potatoes per hill. So an older variety like Beauregard, per hill or per sweet potato plant, you'll get one #1 or high grade sweet potato, a few kind of medium sized ones, and then maybe a runt or 2. With Orleans here, you get a higher percentage of those high grade or #1 sweet potatoes. And in my opinion, come harvest time, these Orleans are the prettiest sweet potatoes. They just look a lot better than some of those older varieties do. So I've got 2 jars of plants like this. I think there's about 25 plants or so in each jar, which should be enough to cover these 2 rows. Had these sitting in water for about a week now. I do try to change out the water every 1 to 2 days, keeping them in water for a few days. Get some nice and perky before we put them in the dirt. Now the way a lot of the old timers will do this is just lay their sweet potato plant on the soil and take them a stick or something and just kind of poke it down in the dirt like that right there, and that works pretty good. I don't have that many here, so I'll probably just walk along and do it by hand. Now I'm going to put mine about 12 inches apart. Just a little tip that I've heard from the folks over at Steel Plant Company: if you want a little more harvest leniency, you can plant these things closer together. So if you don't want to have to harvest them right at 100 days, then plant them closer together, crowd them up a little bit, and it'll take them longer to size up. If you wait too long to harvest these and they're spaced, you know, 12 inches apart or further, what can happen is they'll get too big and gnarly on you too fast. So crowding them gives you a little more harvest leniency. Given the plants I have here, I'm just going to put mine about 12 inches apart. All right, so we got those 2 bundles of plants in the ground. Didn't have quite enough plants to make it to the end of both of those rows. Those rows are a little longer than I thought they were, but we're still going to have plenty planted here. Now you can plant these deeper than what I did here, but I didn't plant mine that deep because I want the sweet taters to form in that nice little hill of sandy, soft dirt there, not way down there by the hard pan. Make them a lot easier to dig in about 3 or 4 months. So that's why I planted mine kind of shallow. I will add some soil to these as they grow. And so I want to get the overhead sprinkler and get some water splashing on these ASAP before they start looking too pitiful. I won't have to baby them as much as I have those in the raised beds, but I will have to give them a little sprinkle probably every day for the next 3 or 4 days until they get some roots established in that soil. Ideally, you'd like to plant these really late in the afternoon, an hour or 2 before dark. That won't stress them out too much. Probably don't want to be planting 2:30 in the afternoon when it's as hot as it can be out here, but you do what you got to do when you can do it. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Let me know in the comments below what you think about growing sweet potatoes in fertile soil versus basically newly broken ground like we have here behind us with not a lot of nutrients in it. And if you want to see what those Orleans sweet potatoes look like in a really good year, watch this video right here from our harvest a couple years ago. We did really good with them. Got some really nice looking sweet potatoes. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.